Expensive niches versus cheap niches on YouTube. Today, we're going to compare different topics and how much they pay, so we can understand how much YouTube pays per view, how you can influence that and increase your income, and which niche is best for starting your own YouTube channel. My name is EGOR, and I'm the creator and producer of a network of English language YouTube channels. Let's get started. But first, let's begin with a bit of theory. What is revenue per 1,000 views, or RPM? Basically, it's the income you earn for every 1,000 views. So, for example, if 1 million people watch your video, you get paid $1 for every 1,000 views. That means for 1 million views, you'd earn $1,000. And basically, several important factors influence this metric. First of all, where is our audience watching from? In other words, which countries are at the top of our list? Let's say Kazakhstan, Argentina, Germany, Poland, and so on. Each of these countries has its own advertising rates. So how does this work in practice? Let's say we have a certain video on YouTube, and it's being shown in different countries. For example, in the US our RPM is $5, in Germany it's $3, and in Japan it's $2. Let's say we have 1,000 viewers in the US, 10,000 in Germany, and in Japan, well, let's say just 2,000 people are watching us. All these numbers are added up, and when we calculate it per number of views, we get that very RPM. The length of the video also affects RPM. It's actually very simple. The longer the video, the more ads you can logically fit into it. If, for example, the average watch time for a 10-minute video is 5 minutes, then for a 40-minute video, the watch time can be much higher. And, for example, if we take the same niche, let's say, making dioramas, creating a zombie dog diorama takes 10 minutes. Roughly speaking, the RPM here will be, well, $2 or $3. But at the same time, in a longer video that lasts, say, half an hour, the average watch time will be much higher. So, it's the same topic, the same dioramas, but the RPM here will be a bit higher because, on average, the videos on the channel are longer. If you want to start your own YouTube channel, get it monetized, and earn like my students $200 to $300 a day, then now is the perfect time to follow the link in the description and check out my training lessons at my YouTube Academy. There, you'll choose a relevant niche for a YouTube channel without using your voice or showing your face, launch your channel in a trending topic, and of course you'll be able to fully automate all the processes. It's free for now at this moment. That's why I recommend all of you to go check it out, subscribe, and of course, finally start growing your own YouTube channel. Because right now, this particular field, making money on American YouTube, is exactly the area where you can consistently earn from $5,000 a month. And in many niches, you don't even have to create the content yourself. I've explained all of this in detail in the training. The link is in the description below the video. I've identified 10 different niches with different RPMs. We'll start from the very bottom and move up to the most profitable topic. And at the end, we'll decide what to actually choose, what to do. First of all, this includes Let's Plays, walkthroughs, animations, kids content, everything related to that. For example, Poppy Playtime is a super popular niche that once took over all possible trends. Usually, the RPM in these kinds of niches can range from $1 to $3. So, most of the time, those are the numbers you can expect, and it's important to keep that in mind. It also depends on the content itself. So, if it's just a video without voice or face, obviously the viewer retention will be lower, and as a result, the RPM will be lower too. But if it's more like blogger-style content, where something is happening on screen, with dynamic editing and so on, like in this example, then of course, the RPM will be higher. And here, everything is directly tied to the personality of the channel's creator. Of course, in the kids niche, there are way more views. You can find a video here, for example, with 150 million views in 2 months, or 30 million in 4 years, 150 million, and so on. You might ask, well, Igor, what's the difference between that content and this one? In reality, the differences here are minimal. The only real difference is that YouTube Kids is basically a separate YouTube within YouTube, so to speak. And here, the RPM is even lower. Yes, it's even lower because the ads themselves are much cheaper, and there are far fewer of them shown, again for the sake of children's safety. So, it might seem like there's not much income here, but that's offset by the fact that there are way more views, because kids watch everything more actively, but the competition is also higher. The next category is cooking. Here, the situation is a bit more favorable. The RPM hovers around $3, and pretty much anything can be considered part of the cooking niche. This includes mukbangs, just eating a ton of food, cooking in the forest, and all sorts of different food recipes. For example, channels like Wildness Cooking or Grigory Kafka's are basically all about the same thing. Miniature kitchens, by the way, are also a really cool trend. Cooking food in all sorts of unusual ways. Yeah, you get the idea. The point of this niche is that you can basically start a YouTube channel here, because people always want to eat. And honestly, the content pretty much creates itself. It's super easy to make. You can even include things like making inedible food out of Lego, and so on. However, you need to understand that in this kind of content, cooking, because it's so easy to make, the competition is massive, it's practically endless. There are countless channels like this on YouTube, just with recipes, and as you can see, the views they get are actually pretty modest. Well, you might say, okay, so what? The channel still puts out videos, gets views, and some videos even go viral with a few million views and so on. But I guarantee that if you start a similar channel, pretty much the same, with recipes and all that, and try to film at least one video every day, that is, once again, it's very time consuming and labor intensive. Nevertheless, most likely your channel won't grow, because the competition here is brutal, and I strongly advise you not to get into these niches, no matter what other experts or anyone else might tell you. Once, during a channel review, I had a subscriber whose channel we looked at. She had literally made about 200 videos, and not a single one took off. Everything she published just disappeared into nowhere, like it was sucked into a black hole. The next topic is fashion, style, and everything related to it. You have to admit, content aimed at women also gets a ton of views, popularity, and so on. Outfit compilations, items from marketplaces, what's going to be trendy this summer, or how should you dress, or all the content related to makeup and so on, this all falls into the same category. The average RPM in this niche is $3. And basically, to launch your own YouTube channel here, you still need to have some kind of unique angle, something that makes you stand out. There are also a lot of different sub-niches here that you can still get into. The lifestyle niche. This also includes travel, and really, any content, absolutely any content, that's related to vlogging and so on. By the way, one of the more interesting things I've come across recently is how people live in Monaco. Basically, someone just goes out with a camera and films everything happening around them. Like, for example, women in high heels, fancy cars, wealthy people in suits, and everything else. Just filming it all, you know. Videos like these are getting a lot of views right now. This can definitely be considered part of the lifestyle genre, meaning the way people live. And yes, in this niche, the RPM is $4. But to film something like this, you at least need to travel somewhere and record yourself walking around there. Content about cars. Here, it's important to understand that there's everything from super kid-friendly stuff to content for more mature audiences, so to speak. Here's an example of relatively kid-friendly content. Right. In this case, the RPM is about $2 to $3. But if we're talking about car review channels, things get a lot more interesting. First of all, there are more views here, obviously. Secondly, the RPM is higher, about $5 per 1,000 views. Content related to how to film, create, or make videos. So basically, this is an expert niche, an expert field, and it's highly valued on YouTube. And in general, we'll talk about making money online separately. But right now, I want to specifically highlight and point out this niche. This is also a huge segment of content. Again, there aren't that many views here, if you notice, but nevertheless, the RPM is quite high, about $7 per 1,000 views. But in the education niche, it gets even more interesting. Here, the RPM is $10, and as you can imagine, there are a huge number of different directions within this niche. This includes medicine, psychology, mathematics, physics, exam preparation, and learning foreign languages. Anything related to education tends to average around $10 per 1,000 views. And the thing about this, well, let's say, this area, this type of content, is that, for the most part, making videos here is extremely easy. So, let's just look at a simple example together. How do you like this niche? Literally, stick figures drawn in paint. Yeah, stick men drawn in paint, with a voiceover explanation and a call to subscribe. And that's it. So really, just learn a new language. That's the title of the video. So here, they're telling us about how to learn languages in general, what methods to use, and so on. Basically, it's explainer content, just explanations. And imagine, in a niche like this, the RPM can even reach or approach $10. That's how it is. At the same time, the whole channel is dedicated to this kind of explainer content. Well, I think that's actually pretty awesome. So again, look, here's the point. On this channel specifically, the content itself is super easy to create, and it's made about relevant, easy to understand topics. In other words, explaining things is an evergreen niche. You can take note of this and start a similar channel, because as you can see, it launched just a year ago, and in that time it's already grown to, well, 1 million subscribers. That's right, 1 million subscribers. Just from explanations. In a year, 1 million subscribers, and every video has gotten at least 1 million views. You get what I mean, right? That's the trick. For example, there's a video about how to code, or about how to walk. Again, they're not explaining any super fine points, details, or nuances here. Basically, it's just a video that's like a roadmap, right? Here's what to click on, where to go, where to start, how to build a study plan, which services might be useful for all of this, and so on. So it's just a basic, straightforward explanation. Honestly, you could generate a script for this kind of video with an AI and then just do the voiceover. But still, you can see how many views this kind of content gets globally. The finance niche can earn more than $10 per 1,000 views. And the main thing here is that there are a lot of different directions you can take. These include, let's say, financial news, financial advice, financial literacy, all of that. There are also different ways to make money, which is one of the directions, right? There's also cryptocurrency, trading, finance, making money on the market, and so on. There are also stories of various successful people who made their fortunes and earned money. All of this is valued at more than $10 per thousand views. Your RPM could even be $15 or $20, depending on the niche. There's a very narrow, so to speak, area within the finance niche, like loans and credit cards. Basically, how to use all of these things and so on. Overall, banking is also an awesome niche. There, the RPM is about $15. In short, it's a solid niche, but the catch is, as you can imagine, the competition here is pretty tough. To make videos for this audience, at the very least, you need to know English and be familiar with all the terminology, nuances, and understand exactly what the target audience needs. By the way, I made this video about how to make your video go viral and how to figure out what your target audience wants. Definitely check it out. It's literally the last video I made, where I broke down, step by step, the secret to a successful video. The next area is marketing. Marketing covers everything: sales, different types of content about how to build your personal brand, how to make money on social media, how to grow your Instagram, how to boost your Telegram, how to grow your YouTube channel. Basically, all possible social networks. All of this is marketing. Marketing secrets, promotion secrets, secrets to making money, secrets to growing your personal blog, how companies build their brands, how to boost and create your own logo. This also touches on design here. So, there are a lot of areas, but it's all marketing, and the RPM in this niche is, drumroll, $13. $13. And, so to speak, the #1 spot today goes to a niche. Yeah, what do you think it is? Of course, it's the niche about making money, about how to earn, how to build a fortune, how to make cash. Damn it. This niche is valued at a minimum of $15. Yeah, so $15 RPM in this topic is actually a pretty normal, standard, average statistic. If you're, so to speak, a hardcore expert and talk about different ways to make money, how to earn on anything, share different schemes, tricks, coupons, discounts, options for boosting your social media, what combinations to use, how to drive traffic, affiliate marketing, anything like that, this is the niche for you. And yes, in terms of monetization, a $15 RPM here is very good, very solid. So, today we've looked at a huge number of different niches, and the logical question comes up. Which one should you choose? What should you film? What should you do? Where should you start? How do you get going? Here's what I'll tell you, my friends, you shouldn't start with a niche that has the highest RPM. You should start with what you really understand and know well. For example, if you're into cars, you love cars, and you're willing to spend hours a day tinkering with your ride just because you enjoy it. That's your hobby. Great, there you go, a channel about cars. You don't have to do reviews of super expensive cars or buy a new one every time. I showed you an example of how you can do something similar even with toy cars. Or, for example, you really know your stuff when it comes to movies. Go ahead and create a niche related to cinema. You could recreate scenes from films, show how things are done, talk about how a movie was made, share facts, and so on and so on. Everything about movies. Or, here's another good one. You know how to make things with your hands. Knitting, sewing, sculpting with clay, or modeling clay. There are tons of niches and directions on YouTube where you can start a channel. For example, we've looked at diorama channels together, and they also have good RPM. And my main point is that no matter which niche you choose, you will get the number of views in that niche that you're capable of getting. Roughly speaking, 1 million views in some cool adult niche, like, say, channels about finance or different ways to make money. That's a huge amount. You could earn, say, $10,000 to $20,000 there, but you could make the same $10,000 to $20,000 if you were working in kids content, which you really understand. For example, maybe you have 2 or 3 kids, you're always connected with them, and so on. You know what they like, what interests them. Want to start a kids channel? Go ahead. You can get 20 to 30 million views a month and make the same amount of money. In both cases, it won't be easy. I mean, getting a channel off the ground, launching it, and so on. Maybe, if you do this systematically, with a certain approach and by following specific rules, which I talked about in my mini course, the link to which is, of course, in the description. Well, this was Igor Fermia. Don't forget to check out this video. See you soon.